the gauntlet. I've had it with all these wall-shooting, scrap-using, hyena-abusing users. If only there was a weapon I could use to personally teach y'all a lesson. Well. Huh. Sweet. Hello ladies and gentlemen and all the core gamers out there, CAJman777 here today to bring you yet another Ninjala weapon guide. And with this guide, it's gonna get personal. Up close and personal. As today we'll be going over the new glove and claw type weapons that were added into Season 7 for Ninjala. So if you're ready for this weapon guide, and of course you want to see more of them and other amazing content like this, feel free to hit that like button as well as hitting that subscribe button, as this channel is of course trying to reach 5,000 subs by the end of 2021. And while we have quite a ways to go, hey, any progress is steady progress. And you know, that's good. So anyways, let's dive in and talk about the glove and claw type weapons in Ninjala. Like all my other videos in the weapon guide series, this guide is an in-depth analysis and breakdown of everything the new punch type weapons have to offer. Whether you're just starting out with this weapon or you want a few tips and tricks, this is going to be the guide for you. I'll cover everything from the gum kits right down to the weapons combo routes, but like some of my previous guides, some information is bound to repeat, so I'll get through that repeat information quickly. And of course, please bear in mind that this guide is not the be-all end-all guide for the gloves and claws, because every weapon is subject to change as patches come out, and with all the changes we've been getting recently, a lot of weapons don't play how they normally do. The gloves and claws are extremely mobile, gentlemanly glass cannons. They offer less in terms of health, but to make up for this, they have increased mobility and an extensive combo structure to keep your opponent guessing what you're going to do next, as well as 3 different break attack options to absolutely destroy anything in its path. Offering up the same amount of health as the extreme yo-yo class at 270, they are able to survive for a decently long period of time in combat. Unlike the yo-yo class, though, they only offer 102 base movement speed compared to 105 base movement speed, which isn't a big deal at all considering this weapon's passive ability, which we are going to be talking about momentarily. So let's start by talking about the first kit, the kitten mittens. Just kidding, they're actually known as the Paw-Xing gloves, but the kitten mittens are way funnier to say. But regardless, the Paw-Xing gloves, like most other new types of weapons, in particular when a new weapon comes out, this particular kit comes with a brand new gum shoot and ninjutsu, and of course, special. For our gum shoot, we have the Gum Boomerang. Gum Boomerang is a mid-level priority gum shot that fires a projectile in the shape of a boomerang towards your opponent. No matter the size of this gum shoot, from small to large, it has a much bigger hitbox than people initially think. However, only the medium and large versions of this gum shot will bind when used fully. But that brings me to my next point. You see, this is called Gum Boomerang for a reason, or if you'd like, the Gummerang. After initially launching the Gum Boomerang, after a short period of time, the boomerang will return to you. But it doesn't just return to the spot you shot it from when I say it returns to you. The Gum Boomerang specifically returns to you, the character, and not the location you shot it from, making this gum shot very strong for getting gum binds, e-pawns, and staggers onto any opponent. It can also easily cancel other gum shots such as kunai, launcher, balloon, and even an undeployed gum net. Overall, this gum shoot is vital to learn if you want to master this weapon, and we'll be diving more into the importance of the Gummerang in the combo section of this video. But for now, it's time to talk about the new ninjutsu this weapon class brought to the table, the Blast Barrier. For the Paw-Xing Gloves Gum Ninjutsu, we have something very different. Rather than being an offensive ninjutsu like most, we have our first, well, maybe second defensive ninjutsu, Blast Barrier. Blast Barrier is just an incredible ninjutsu. It provides shields not only to you, but your team in a team battle as well for a short period of time. Now you may be thinking, that's it? That's all this ninjutsu does? Let me tell you something. That's just the start of what this ninjutsu can do. You see, while Blast Barrier provides you and your team a shield, it also gives you, the person who activated the Blast Barrier, a new type of armor known as hyper armor, and complete gum shot immunity. This means when you're hit with any attack, unless you are specifically hit with a launcher or from behind, you will not flinch, and you cannot be bound when the barrier is active around you. This gum shot nullification also is active, I'm pretty sure, on your teammates as well, but I'm not a big team battle player, so someone please correct me on that if I am wrong. But wait! There's even more! Because Blast Barrier also takes any incoming damage you receive, whether that be from a ninjutsu or an attack, and reduces it by 60%. That's huge! So what does this mean for you? Well, this means that at full health, you can literally tank pretty much every other ninjutsu's total damage in the game. Fujiyama Rocket? We eat those while walking out of it with style. Tornado? Is it me? Or did you just feel a breeze now? Dragon Lord? Bro, you ain't a Dragon Lord, you just a peasant. Piercing Mixer? Please, gung-ho buff my boy with gum damage. Potent Poison? How about we just negate everything Potent Poison does, including its movement reduction? The only exceptions to what Blast Barrier cannot stop are insta-kill ninjutsu such as Tenchi Muyo and Baiting Shark. Technically speaking, you can still perish to Mixer and Poison if you stand still, but who's gonna do that against Poison or Mixer? No one. With this ninjutsu, you can constantly be the aggressor and you don't have to fear anything. You don't even need to bother to S-burst unless you are taking heavy attacks that consistently launch you. Scrap wide spam. To add to this, Blast Barrier also has a shockwave function for its offensive ability that you can activate with another press of the X button. This shockwave, of course, does standard ninjutsu damage, anywhere being from 200 to 250, but you pretty much have to be point blank to make it useful. It only has about 1 square of range on the training range, but I would say overall this ninjutsu is extremely versatile and works well for a weapon that needs to get up in your personal space to be truly damaging. As for the special and abilities for the punch type weapons, we have some unique ones that really go all in on the pursuit factor for these weapons. Starting with the special, we have Overflowing Power. If you've played fighting games before, this special would be considered what's known as an install super. An install super is a super that buffs you for a set amount of time or for the duration of the match once active. Overflowing Power, though, really isn't that much different. When active, Overflowing Power not only increases your damage output and attack speed, but gives certain attacks super armor. Overflowing Power also enhances your fully charged wide attack with the gloves and claws, adding a bleed effect for 5 ticks of about 5 to 10 damage each in about 2 seconds upon making contact with an opponent. However, Overflowing Power has more uses as well, as it can also be used as a defensive tool. When active, Overflowing Power also increases your life recovery for its duration. If you combine this with something like Master of Change and your morph ability, you can get back to 100% health in literal seconds after a fight. This, of course, is to make sure you can be healthy for any engagement, as you do need to get up close and personal with these weapons. But with the abilities these weapons have, to add to this factor of Overflowing Power, we have some extremely evasive abilities that help Overflowing Power succeed even further. For our first ability, we have Accelerator Hopper. Not to be confused with the Bumpy Accelerator special on the Extreme Yo-Yos, Accelerator Hopper is a passive ability for the gloves and claws that increases your movement speed overall after moving for a short period of time. And by increasing your movement speed, I mean by a mile. This passive makes the gloves and claws so fast, you won't be used to the speed other weapons have anymore when you switch back. In fact, you move so fast, you can completely outrun Overpowering Wave by a slight margin. Sweet ride on the skateboards, provided they aren't constantly jumping around with that double jump, and you can almost outrun Gum Boosting as well. Unfortunately, you cannot outrun Bumpy Accelerator on the Extreme Yo-Yos with the gloves and claws, whether that be the turbo or whether that be them just holding forward on the stick. This speed increase, of course, only stops temporarily when you hit a wall at a sharp angle, attack anything, or get attacked. However, this passive also works with your weapon broken. So there's honestly a lot of utility for this passive, and it gets even better with the big weapon ability. As for the big weapon ability on the gloves and claws, we have Echo Energy. Don't let the description of this ability fool you. It, in fact, does not decrease your S energy capacity by 1. This is a mistranslation, and you can see it right on the screen. Instead, what Echo Energy actually does is decreases the cost of using S energy when gum boosting from 3 S energy to 2 S energy when you have your big weapon, adding to the mobility of the once again already mobile gloves and claws. With everything combined, the Paw-Xing gloves are an incredible choice if you want to be a mobile offensive powerhouse, but of course, that also carries over to the sister kit of the gloves and claws too. For our sister kit to the Paw-Xing gloves, we have the Ogre claws or the Ogre gloves. And like the Paw-Xing gloves, the Ogre claws share the same special and abilities as the gloves, so we just need to focus on the gum shoot and ninjutsu. For our gum shoot, the Ogre gloves, the Ogre claw, or the Ogre claws, whichever one you'd like to say. I think they're claws personally. They get Gum Ghost. Gum Ghost is, well, a ghost. Whether small, medium, or large, the Gum Ghost has the ability to home in onto your nearest opponent, even through walls. Upon contact with your opponent, the Gum Ghost does gum damage to your opponents, provided the ghost is not blocked itself. But even if the ghost does get blocked, not doing gum damage, the ghost will always drain your opponent's S energy anywhere from 2 to 6 units, depending on the size of the Gum Ghost. Now, as many people already know, the Gum Ghost is slow, but that's not an issue when you've got the Ogre gloves, because you have to be up close to hit them to begin with, making Gum Ghost a solid option for late game bind routes. As for the Ogre gloves ninjutsu, they gave it the horse, and I'm just gonna say it now, there was a huge missed opportunity to not give the Ogre gloves Shinobi Beast, but regardless, the claws got the worst nightmare, so I'm not gonna complain about it that much. Worst Nightmare is still one of the newer ninjutsus in the game, added only last season. If you have your ninja riding on a papier-mâché horse quickly across the arena, all while dropping binding bombs. The horse, now with this season, has super armor added to it, making it a little more durable to other things and preventing you from getting knocked off by basic attacks. However, you still can be knocked off of it by other ninjutsus. The ninjutsu itself, of course, does around 250 damage to players upon hitting them with the Worst Nightmare directly. And as for the binding bombs you drop while riding it, the bombs themselves act like a medium gum shot from Gum Launcher, often meaning you'll need 2 to bind players. But the bombs also do bits of damage as well, about 10 damage per bomb, and they can get E-Pons as well if the bombs themselves KO somebody. Don't forget as well that if you'd like to take advantage of the bound opponents from the binding bombs from Worst Nightmare, all you have to do is actually hit CL to cancel Worst Nightmare. This ninjutsu, of course, does give the Ogre gloves a bit of a longer range option to make up for its lack of range, but it still sticks with the weapon's theme of overall mobility, making it a super solid choice. Overall, though, I would say it's entirely up to your preference which one of the gloves you'd like to play with. I think they're both excellent choices to start with if you want to learn some of the mechanics of Ninjala, but in the same vein, they are very good weapons for those who want to try something new and learn the way of the fist. This carries over to the attack combo routes, as you'll see soon enough, and you'll find out that with these attack combo routes, these weapons bring something very unique to the table when fighting in general in Ninjala, which is pretty dang cool. Let's get right into it, because we have a ton of information to cover in this section of the video. Starting with the attacks of the gloves, we have a unique animation set built specifically for them. They have 4 normal attacks, 2 back attacks, 4 wide attacks, and 3 different break attacks. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over each of the basic attack strings, and then we will go from there before the combos. If you guys want, of course, you can skip to the next section of the video, which will, of course, go over the combos if that is what you're here for. But starting out with the glove types, we have their normal attack string. Normal 1 is a thrusting claw that travels straight forward and punctures your enemy. Normal 2 is a simple left-right slash from the left fist. Normal 3 is a consistent right-to-left spinning slash with the claws and gloves. And Normal 4 is a dual slash straight downwards, and because it is a combo finisher, it will launch your opponent. Of course, as you can probably tell, the normal attacks on the gloves and claws are incredibly fast, and due to this, sometimes you can just outright outspeed other normal attacks from other weapons, but other than that, there's nothing too special about our normal attacks. As far as our back attacks go, however, there is something to bring up here in regards to them, so let me start by showing you the two back attacks. Back 1 has you teleport behind your opponent and inflict a heavy gouging slash from left to right. As far as back 2 goes, back 2 once again has you teleport behind your opponent to deliver a dual slash that ends with a rather interesting stagger. Now, as you may have noticed already when performing back 2, you are actually granted super armor for this attack. Now, while that is special in its own right, it's not really the big thing on back 2 I wanted to mention. You see, despite doing low damage in general when using the back attacks on these weapons, as well as having a low knockback value, meaning you could literally infinite somebody with the back attacks, back 2 offers a very interesting follow-up opportunity. You might notice if you just use back 2 after the second hit, your opponent starts spinning as if they got hit with the wide attack from the prop hammers, and that's because they are. The unique thing about back 2 is that it creates this heavy stagger opportunity to follow up with certain attacks from the gloves. Now, we will get to taking advantage of this follow-up attack when I talk more about the break attacks and combos on the gloves, so please for now keep that thought in the back of your mind. But that's not all, because while I mentioned, of course, you do have 2 back attacks for the gloves and claws, you really only have 1. Now, sure, while back 1 does exist, it exists only if you use it as a combo starter, or after you launch an opponent. No matter how many normal attacks you do, provided it's not the normal 4 finisher, you will always do back 2 afterwards, giving you that heavy stagger to follow up on. This allows the gloves and claws to reap the benefits of extended combos, which again, I will talk about later. But that's enough talking about the back attacks. It's now time to talk about the wide attacks. And the wide attacks on the gloves are rather unique as well. There are four of them to speak of, so let's go over them first. Wide Zero is a slow but powerful chargeable attack that has you do front flips forward, performing a dual slash downward and out. Unlike the first wide attack on other weapons, this wide attack does not share the same animation as other wide attacks, which it normally would. The fully charged version of this attack also grants super armor to the player and does massive damage. How much damage? We're talking nearly half health from sound hammers.
Oh, that's a lot of damage!
However, we are not quite done talking about Wide Zero just yet, because we can still enhance Wide Zero further. A fully charged Wide Zero, while under the effects of overflowing power, the special on the gloves and claws, will add 5 ticks of bleed damage to your opponent. As you can see, there's a little effect that's sparking right there. These damage ticks do about 5 additional damage per tick for an additional 25 damage, and they can indeed KO and even epon players if their health happens to reach 0 when taking one of these ticks. It's definitely not something you want to get hit with, but like I said earlier, the heavy stagger on back 2 will have something to say about that. Onto our other wides now. Wide 1 is an AoE spinning slash that acts very much like other wides in the game, knocking people away from you in a small radius. Wide 2 takes inspiration from the drill and has your ninja thrust themselves with claws barreling towards your opponent in a drill spin. This move is like some of the drill's wides and also has incredible tracking because of it. And finally, Wide 3 once again is an AoE dual slash that sends your opponent flying. This wide attack, aside from fully charged Wide 0, is the single strongest attack the gloves and claws have. But now we get to talk about something very special. The break attacks. You see, unlike other break attacks in the game, the gloves and claws get 3 separate break attacks. These break attacks can be used in a variety of different situations and are affected by the direction of the attack you input while performing them. They also all have different effects, and one of them actually can be built into a combo route, so let's actually get into it. Starting off, of course, we have the normal break. This is, without a doubt, the break attack that most Ninjala players will already know about. This break is nothing special, and it's used as a means to stop people from S-bursting and of course, to break their gum guard. This break attack has your ninja perform a dual slash in an X-like pattern onto your opponent, and it just is activated with a simple press of the R button. Now for our back break attack, we have something a little bit different. This break attack, once again, like all break attacks, is used for breaking bursts and gum guards. However, unlike the normal break attack, the back break attack is the slowest of the break attacks on the gloves and claws, but it has a special effect. You see, this break variation can be used in combos, specifically after the heavy staggering effect from back number 2. And honestly, you'll want to use this after back 2, more than likely, because it is extremely hard to hit otherwise. Unlike every other break attack in the game, however, this break attack can inflict gum damage onto your opponent, even to the point of binding them if you've dealt enough. This is definitely the most skilled of the break attacks to use, but pulling it off mid-match is so satisfying, like I did in this clip right here. However, we still have one more break attack to discuss, and that is, of course, the wide break. This is the break attack most people will try to pull off on you during a match. Why? Because landing one of these on a gum guard or S-burst will instantly cause your demise. Now, hitting this normally in a combo will not activate its special effect, so it specifically has to be used on guards and bursts. But if you pull it off, it's an instant Ippon as you proceed to Izuna drop your opponent into the ground. During this special Ippon animation of the Izuna drop, you and your opponent are completely immune to literally everything in the game. This includes other ninjutsu, as you can't be harmed during the special animation at all. This break attack is the ultimate insult, but it's also very predictable, and people will fish for it at times, making the importance of mixing up your burst timing all the more necessary. With that being said, that will cover all the attacks and information you need to know about the gloves and claws, so let's put it into practice with some combos. Now, there are so many combo routes you can take with the glove weapons that it was actually really hard for me to pick and choose which combos I wanted to show off for this video, but I think I've narrowed it down enough to give everyone watching a generalized feel for these combos. As always, I'm going to start basic and show you some of the easier combos to perform first before getting into some advanced stuff, but please note that a combo in this section might have to be performed a little differently depending on which of the kits you are using, and I'll be denoting that combo with the appropriate abbreviation of the weapon when we get to it. But for now, let's start with the general route for the gloves. So the general route of these weapons are extremely simple. You're actually going to start with 2 normal attacks. Following the 2 normal attacks, you're going to go into a left-right ZR, press Y to activate Overflowing Power, half charge your enhanced wide special from Overflowing Power, and then finish them with a normal attack. Right off the bat for this first combo, as you can see, I'm using the extended stagger time of the back attack. This stagger has so many applications, and it's very important to get used to it quickly, as almost all the combos for this weapon class rely on the stagger to achieve maximum damage output. You'll have to remember to mash the Y button very quickly after the back attack, or you will not have enough time or charge to finish hitting your opponent. However, you can end up killing them, as you see just there, with the actual tick damage. So make sure you keep that in mind, especially if they are a sound hammer where they might actually need that extra hit. However, the one thing and the most important thing to note about this combo, aside from using that back to stagger, is you have to start this route with 2 normal attacks or it will not kill. That is the only exception. You have to start this route with 2 normals. For the next combo, this is the combo that is going to be different depending on whether you're using the Paw-Xing gloves or the Ogre gloves. I'm going to be incorporating a gum shoot into these combos, but the positioning of the gum shot in these combos will be different based on the weapon you are using. However, it's also important to note that you'll also want to be running Stealing Hyena with gum damage up for the Ogre claws for this combo. So for the Paw-Xing gloves, we have this route. You're going to start with a normal attack, then immediately jump cancel into your gum shot. You're then going to do both series of the back attacks, hit your Y button, and then fully charge your wide. As for the Ogre gloves, the combo route differs, and the combo route is going to be as follows. You're going to start with a normal attack, then immediately go into an uncharged wide attack, then 2 back attacks, jump cancel out of the second back attack, and fire your Gum Ghost. Then you are going to back break your opponent, hit the Y button as they should be bound, and then fully charge your wide attack. Out of the gate, you can see that these combos are very different from one another, but at the end of the day, they do both, in fact, bind your opponents for an Ippon if performed correctly. But as you can see with this combo specifically, it is much more dynamic with the Ogre gloves, as you're not only taking advantage of Stealing Hyena, but also that increased stagger off the back too, allowing for a very powerful bind back break, which cannot be guarded or bursted against, as you're going to get bound whether you guard against that or not. And while the Paw-Xing gloves have an easier time with this combo, you have to remember you need both hits with the Gummerang to actually bind your opponent. So of course there are trade-offs for both of the combos, but they're both pretty easy to master after some practice. On to our third combo now. We have a full bind big weapon combo for both the Ogre gloves and the Paw-Xing gloves that absolutely eviscerates anything standing in your path, and it's super easy to perform as well. You're going to start this combo off with the Gum Shot, whether that be Gum Ghost or Gum Boomerang. Following that, you're immediately going to do 2 normal attacks, switch into your back attack, do a back break, hit the Y button to activate overflowing power, and then finish them with a fully charged downward wide. Now, as you can tell, this combo is actually pretty easy to pull off. In fact, it might even be easier than the previous combo that I just showed you, although the last one had a bit more style. However, what's really crazy is that if you do this combo right, instead of finishing them off with a fully charged wide attack, you can instead style on your opponent with an Ippon emote. And that is insane. Although you need a slight route change to make that happen, it is nasty. There is not a single combo in all my previous guides that allows you to get emote Ippons that easy, so enjoy that one. But of course, we have one more combo to go over, and that is of course our ninjutsu combo for the gloves and claws. Now, for this to work with the Paw-Xing gloves, you will need to already have Blast Barrier active. So, with that being said, let's get into the combo. You're going to start with a Gum Shot right off the bat, 2 normal attacks, 1 back attack, a back break, dash towards your opponent, and then hit the X button again. This straightforward ninjutsu combo strikes fear into all your opponents. It's fast, it's deadly, and it is in destruction incarnate. No weapon is safe from this combo route, not even sound hammers. Whether using the Ogre gloves or the Paw-Xing gloves, hitting this combo spells the end of your foe. But that is it, at least, you know, for the combo section of this video. So I hope you found this section informative and helpful. In the next section of the video, we're going to be talking about Shinobi card recommendations and weaknesses, so I will meet you there. Now, of course, as we get into this section, I'd like to note that these recommended Shinobi card preferences might be a little bit different compared to what you would like to run, but this is just to give everybody a general idea of what you want to look for when building a glove or claw set. Firstly, we're going to talk about what I believe is the best possible card for the gloves and claws, and that is the Shinobi card, Energy Hoarder. Energy Hoarder is a relatively cheap and affordable card that you can really fit into almost any single build. Not only that, but it also has some very useful assist codes, from health recovery upon picking up an orb to increasing ninjutsu gain via the same method. With the speed assist code on Energy Hoarder as well, you can almost, if not, hit the movement speed cap that was added into this season thanks to your added ability, Accelerator Hopper. This card will keep you extremely mobile the whole fight, and it's extremely viable for the claws. For the second Shinobi card recommendation, we're going to get an even cheaper card in the form of Master of Change. Now, this is a card I don't really talk about often, but I'm talking about it here because it's very strong on the gloves and claws, specifically with assist code 2 on Master of Change, which increases your life recovery rate while morphed. So, say you just came out of a big fight and you're low on health. If you combine this Master Change with Assist Code 2 with the Overflowing Power Special and move while morphed, as I said earlier, your health recovery will be nearly instantaneous, allowing you to get back into the action quickly. Not to mention that when the passive ability is active, your morphed movement speed will also be the same as your passive ability on the claws, and it is super nice. It's also a great utility card, being able to perform some instant bind sneak strikes as well, which you may be able to take advantage of. As for my last Shinobi card recommendation, we're going to get a little specific this time around and play around with a card that can act as an early game safety net for the Ogre gloves, and that is Strike Big. Strike Big allows you to start with the match with a big weapon already active. Now, why is this important? Well, if you don't know, the back break attack on the glove type weapons specifically have a set amount of gum damage they can inflict when using the back break attack. This value cannot be modified by outside sources, unlike the gum shots can. Instead, the back break attack for the gloves only changes the gum damage value based on the weapon size. Why this is great for the Ogre Claws is because it allows a medium Gum Ghost and one back break attack to bind right off the bat, provided you can get your opponent to half health while having Stealing Hyena equipped with that third assist code, which is the gum damage one. So Strike Big and Stealing Hyena work in tandem very well for the Ogre Gloves. As far as assist codes go on Strike Big, you can really run any of them, but I'd recommend the first or second one. Obviously, you get that increased health if you defeat someone with that weapon, and then the second one, of course, is increasing your S energy when you defeat an opponent with your big weapon, which is also huge. As for honorable mentions, we have another Shinobi card, and that card is known as Starting Dash. Yes! I'm well aware, for those of you who have played Ninjala for a long time and read the patch notes this season, I am well aware Starting Dash got nerfed heavily this season due to obviously its overusage. But due to a slower S energy recovery that was now added onto the Starting Dash card, it's not really that effective against the gloves and claws because you already have a bunch of mobility with your passive, so you'll end up finding yourself using less S energy than you would with a weapon that doesn't have as much mobility. But as far as Shinobi cards go, that's actually about it. So let's talk about the gloves and claws weaknesses. The very obvious and biggest weakness I'd like to point out is that while the gloves and claws are very fast and mobile, they tend to lack a little bit in the damage department. They once again have some of the weakest basic attacks in the game, but due to their speed, that damage can end up racking up quickly. However, this lack of damage can also lead to getting third-partied more often in a battle royale. The other thing to mention as a weakness for the gloves is that you often have to be the aggressor in an engagement. You have to be the person to force your opponent into a corner, or you have to be the person to force your opponent to make a mistake, or obviously they'll make the mistake themselves. And more experienced players will 100% take advantage of this if you are not careful. Additionally, the gloves are melee brawlers. You will have to be up close and personal to make the most of them. This makes playing smart extremely important. You can't just return to monkey and turn your brain off for these weapons. But overall, I would say these weapons are fun, frantic and just downright awesome. I think you'll truly enjoy playing these weapons, and I, of course, hope you all enjoy playing the weapons and that you might have learned something in this guide. And that's it. That's all the information I have to share with you guys on the gloves and claws. So I do, of course, hope you found this video informative and helpful. If you did enjoy what you just watched, do me a favor and hit that like button, as well as hitting that subscribe button to help this channel reach its goal of 5,000 subs by the end of the year. By doing so, you'll not only get to see more content like this, but you'll also get to see other awesome content as well. As always, let me know what your favorite part of the video was down below, as well as mentioning anything I might have missed in this guide, because this was a very long guide. I would say this was my second longest guide, so I am bound to have missed something. But other than that, like I said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. For me now, I'm actually going to be taking a little bit of a Ninjala break. I am suffering from a little bit of Ninjala burnout, so I do need to take a short break. I will be back with Ninjala content, though. Don't you worry. We're just going to be, venturing off into some other games for a little bit when I come back from my break. I also have a convention coming up that I also have to get ready for, so that is a big thing as well. But when I do come back to Ninjala, I hope you guys will be there. You guys will be there to support me, as you guys have been doing for the longest time. But even when I do come back, if we don't have Ninjala content right away, I still hope you guys will stick around for the awesome stuff I have planned. But until then, I hope you all enjoyed the video one last time. And this is CAJ Man 777 signing off. Stay safe, everybody.